Good evening, everyone, and welcome to episode 8 of the Integrity Racing Show. I'm your host, Todd Thomas. Once again, joined as always by our administrator, Jacob Fife. And this week, as typical, whoever sponsors the race will be our guest. So for the second time this season, we've got Joseph Yates from the Yates 87 channel here to discuss his YouTube channel and the sponsorship of his race and some of the things that he's got going on. So we're going to check in with Joseph in just a little bit. But as always, we're going to start with the league's previous race. This past week, we ran 80 laps at Pocono, 8 cautions for 31 laps. Kind of a unique race, a decent green flag run to start the race, followed by a few cautions. We had that little stretch of laps where we went about 20 laps under yellow due to some issues with the iRacing simulator. And then a decent-sized 20-lap green flag run towards the end, followed by a one-lap shootout. But Matt Busa, dominating fashion, leads 68 of the 80 laps. Really only didn't lead when it was under caution. I believe he might have led every green flag lap with the exception of one. But a dominating performance by Matt Busa. Qualified on the pole, took it flag to flag. So Jacob, as you look at the standings, talk about Busa's performance. His qualifying laps were up there among some of the fastest drivers on the service, and really nobody had anything for Matt for much of the evening.
Yeah, I mean, it was typical Busa effort. He's in a league of his own. There's just no two ways about that. So, you do the best you can to put yourself in position to have a shot. But he's the type of driver that you pretty much have to hope that he makes a mistake of some sort in order for you to have a chance to win. Otherwise, I believe his queue time was about 4/10 faster than the field, so it kind of gives you an idea of what you're up against before you're even out of the gate. But a great run by him, and it definitely had some very good runs among the top 5 there, with Kohler getting a good finish, along with yourself and Tyler from 2 to Green did very well, along with Trey Browning, who's been with us for a few weeks now.
All right, so as we continue to look at, well, I've shared the wrong screen again. Pardon my mistake here. Let's see here. I apologize about this, everybody, but here we go. As we look at the top 10, once again, Brennan Kohler gets the silver medal. Yours truly brings home the bronze. Trey Browning, as Jacob just mentioned, a good 4th place finish, and I believe only his 2nd start of the season, so it was good to see Trey run well. Me and him had a pretty solid battle on the one green flag lap, and I was able to steal 3rd place away from him. Tyler Herr gives 2 to Green 2 finishers in the top 5, as you just mentioned. Marcus Lambert finishes 6th. He was the first car that chose to go in and get tires on the last caution, and came back on the track and I believe restarted 12th. So a good run by Marcus on that last lap to come from 12th to 6th. Guillermo Alvarez 7th. Joseph Yates, who restarted 4th, maybe a little bit of a decision to stay on tires there, drops Joseph back to 8th. Joseph, your 8th place finish, kind of talk us through your race and kind of how things played out for you as the top finishing rookie. That's a good accomplishment for you to get that top finishing rookie in an 8th place finish.
Yeah, it certainly is, and I'll be honest, it wasn't an easy night for me, but it was certainly a fun night. As you can see, I started about 20th and back, and had just been working my way all the way up, and we had that one really long stretch of green flag, and I restarted 18th there and had driven myself up to the 7th position when we got that final caution. And I made a mistake going into turn 2 on that last lap, which caused me to lose a couple of spots there. But I mean, it was a great run for me. I had a lot of fun, and I'm looking forward to next week too.
All right, and rounding out the top 10, James Hudson with a 9th place finish, and William Dunn finishes in 10th. So an interesting race. Kind of talked about the different situations we had in the race. We had a couple of long green flag runs. We also had a large chunk in the middle of the race where we had some cautions back to back to back. Jacob, you were able to kind of, especially for the second half of that race, kind of watch it from the bird's eye tower. You saw a lot of different lines throughout one. Some people running that high line, some people running the low line. What kind of racing did you see? Where do you see maybe some of our faster runners were able to make some ground up
Yeah, definitely saw some options as you worked your way through the race, especially through turn three. I thought you could really either choose the bottom or the top lane, depending on whether you're trying to go for a lap time or you're trying to execute a pass. I thought turn one um, was had some options to it, but it's not as much as turn three, and it's just really a battle of setting yourself up for either end of the racetrack. From what I saw, obviously turn two, I think I mentioned it when I was interviewed in the broadcast that Daryl does. Turn two is pretty much single file. You need to get in line and just try to hold position through there, and you're setting yourself up for a pass on either end of the racetrack from there. So definitely a lot of diverse lines and ways to get around there, and that leads to great racing as long as we can maintain green flag runs, which luckily towards the end of the race I think we were able to pull that off a little bit better.
All right, and Joe, kind of tell us how you were able to get around the racetrack. A good finish for you might even be a season high for you, I believe. So you were able to get around the racetrack pretty well. Have some people having some problems in front of you might have helped, but you were up there in the top 5 towards the end of that race. Where were you good on the racetrack? Were you better in turn 1, turn 3? How were you setting up passes and able to get such a good finish on your side?
For me, my best corner on the track was turn 3 and setting up the pass for turn 1. I did not feel like I was very good in turn 2. I struggled with that corner most of the night, but I would run the high side in turn 3 up on that patch, and then I would get a lot of speed down that front stretch to get the passes complete in turn 1.
All right, so a good race, and that kind of finishes up our discussion of Pocono. So congratulations to Matt Busa on another victory here in the Integrity Racing League, which was a dominating performance by him. So moving on, Jacob, as the league administrator, it's your role to kind of update us on the penalties that were in the past week and whatever you and the administrative body have chosen to hand down. So go ahead and lead us through that discussion.
Yeah, thank you, Todd. A couple things from Pocono. First of all, there's a couple of drivers within the caution count that will be suspended for the race at Michigan for having 3 cautions. The first one was Trey Browning. He has 3 cautions, so he won't be able to race at Michigan. And then the other is Nick Ward, who's also under the caution count for that. He has reached 3. Nick's particular caution was appealed, and the admins came back with a 2-to-1 decision on that to uphold the ruling. Basically, just to explain for a quick second, when appeal is given, the admins, not including me, since I've made the original decision, those 3 admins make a decision and majority rules. If the majority goes against my decision, that my original decision is overturned. If they don't, then the decision is upheld. Pretty standard, simple deal there. Couple other things. I don't know if you all noticed from the standings, but it said that Matt Bontempi was DQ'd from the event. That particular incident happened post-race. Between him and another driver, so those points won't be deducted as they usually are since it was past the start-finish line. So if anybody has a question about that, you're aware of it. And then something that was brought up from the Drivers' Council this week and will be put into the rules going forward is the when we're doing a group qualifying session, basically, they recommended and will put in place that there's no more creeping. I think, especially at Pocono through the tunnel turn, created an issue with some drivers going, 30, 40 miles an hour while others were at full speed, and that created a little bit of issue. So we're going to implement that from here to this point, and I'll post about it here after the show and put it in the rule book. But when we do group qualifying, there will be no creeping. So if you're going 30, 40 miles an hour trying to make your way around the track to kind of save tires or whatever, there'll be an EWOL penalty for that. So that's basically it for Pocono, and hopefully we'll move on and keep making the racing better as we head on to Michigan.
All right, so that's an interesting announcement. I'm glad to see the Drivers' Council speak up on that issue because I noticed that there were a couple of issues at Pocono with the whole creeping issue. So it's good to see that the Drivers' Council is staying awake and alert and making good recommendations. So, Joseph, as the race sponsor for the World Needs More Heroes 200 at Pocono, kind of tell us a little bit about your channel and what that sponsorship's all about.
Well, that sponsorship, what I've been doing is Blizzard just released a new game. For those of you that don't know, it's called Overwatch. It's an arena first-person shooter, and what I've been doing is this whole month of June, I'm doing live streams every Tuesday and Friday nights. And for any league members or other outside members that want to join me for those live streams, all you have to do is send me a message either on Facebook or however, and let me know, and we'll exchange contact information. We can get you in on the live streams. You can join the fun. What I've been doing is live streaming about an hour every night, and then I'm taking highlights of those and then uploading them to my YouTube channel. So it's a lot of fun. It's a great game, and it was part of this event was I wanted to get league members involved with what I'm doing, and then also help out the league in return with the race sponsorship here. So that's kind of what I've been doing with that.
All right, and your YouTube channel is Yakes87. It's down there at the bottom of the screen on your tag name. But tell us a little bit about your channel. What other games have you been playing and uploading? How long has the channel been operating? And really, what do you kind of enjoy doing on that channel?
Well, I do a lot of different Let's Play videos, and I started a couple months ago. It was actually in December was when I started. And I've been playing a lot of games, RPG games, horror games. Right now I've got a series going of the game called The Evil Within. That one's got lots of scares and all kinds of creepy things in it, so go check that one out. And then I've also completed other series of Undertale, Half-Life, all kinds of different games, and I even upload some of the IRL races. So stop on by and check that out. That's Yakes87 over on YouTube, as well as Yakes87 on Twitch if you want to check out some of my live streams.
All right, so thank you Joe for sponsoring the World Needs More Heroes 200 at Pocono this past week. It's a great opportunity for anybody that does want to sponsor a race. You can get in touch with Jacob, and then if you sponsor a race, we're going to have you on as a guest. So that's why Joseph has been on twice, because he's been generous enough to sponsor 2 different races. So check out his YouTube channel and thank him for his support of the league. And so Joe, thanks for joining us this week. But going forward, we're going to go ahead and discuss. This is your overall point standings. This is important to notice that this is not the chase grid or anything like that. This is straight point standings. And what we kind of want to mention here is that we've had sort of a stabilization of the top 20. If you look at the standings here, what's important to remember here is Alan Roll is already locked in due to his emeritus status. So the current last person that's locked in based off of points is Trevor Dalton with 266 points. And if you look to the next driver below him that would not be locked in, that's Alan Pajari down there at 227. So a solid 40 points between Trevor Dalton and Alan Pajari. So it kind of got a stabilization of the force there amongst the drivers that are locked in. So Jacob, this is the first year of this format where we had this emeritus and plus the top 20 getting in, and we had some fluctuation amongst the drivers. Has this worked pretty much as you envisioned it would?
Yeah, I think so. Given the circumstances at the time, with as many drivers who are making their way in each week, when you're pushing up in the 60s or so, I think a couple things are happening. I think the numbers are starting to come down a little bit as far as the weekly participation, which is expected. I think the unexpected part was the fact we had 60 to 65 people a week trying to make a race. As far as the top 20 goes, I think the rule or the system in itself has worked really well. I think having that locked in from the top 20 from last year gave those drivers who've been committed to the league the opportunity to keep their spot, but it also allowed other drivers who are new to the league this year kind of work their way to the top. Kind of basically as usual with these types of things, the cream always rises to the top, as they say. So I think it's worked really well. I think it's given some balance and consistency to the league. With the emeritus drivers, I think they're all drivers who've been here from the start and have definitely laid the groundwork to help make us the league we've become. So you don't want to forget your past while inviting the future in as well, with the amount of new drivers we have coming in as well.
All right, and one thing that I was really concerned about as being somebody that wasn't locked in was that essentially this was going to be a enclosed circle. Basically, the locked-in drivers were going to stay pretty much the way they were. And if you look at this, there's a lot of drivers that are currently in this top 20 that started the season not locked in. Myself, Adam de Blasio, Ty McWhorter, I'm probably forgetting some people here, James Hudson. A lot of drivers that were outside of that top 20 had to qualify in each week and then place themselves in that top 20. So I think that really bodes well for people next year that aren't locked in when we go to the Daytona 500 or 250 and forward, that there is possibility of getting themselves locked in. Joseph, as we scroll down here, looking at the standings, you're somebody that's currently in 26th position down there with 203 points. So maybe within striking distance of that top 20, maybe that's an attainable goal for you at the end of the year. Is that something you're looking to do, try to cement yourself into that locked-in status that might give you a position as a locked-in driver next year?
That's definitely what I'm aiming for, and out of my past 3 races, 2 of them have been top 10s, and those are the runs you need to get the points to get back up into that top 20. So that's kind of what my season-long goal is to see how high I can get up and see if I can get into that top 20 to secure myself in a position to be in all the races next year.
All right, and now we're going to actually transition. These are the actual chase standings, and thanks to our league statistician, unofficially, I guess, to Adam de Blasio, who's been doing a lot of work on the back end to provide us these types of information. So this is the chase standing. What's new this week? Well, the green dots. That's the first thing I looked at. So what do the green dots mean? And Adam notifies us that the green dots indicate people that are currently in a chase position and meet the minimum requirements. So don't forget that a minimum requirement of making the chase is at least 14 starts. So you can see people there with a green dot have made at least 14 starts. What's important to note there, that means if they completed no more races the rest of the year, Andrew Fayash is in the chase, Tyler Herr is in the chase. They're guaranteed a position unless they somehow get banned from the league. So scrolling down, we have had a little bit of movement here in the last few weeks amongst drivers in the top 16 based off points. Noticeably this week, Cody Smith with the strong finish jumps into the chase potentially. So we got a lot of movement going on there, some drivers starting to solidify their position. I have a good race and move up, and that definitely helps me towards the chase. Jacob, when you look at this chase standing in this chase grid as it stands today, what are some of the things that stand out to you?
A lot of tight spots, that's for sure. As I'm looking at it, I mean, you have a lot of tight spots towards the top, right where you and I are, along with William Dunn. Actually, you and William are tied, it looks like. I'm also looking down right at the cutoff. That's a 1-point gap between Cody Smith and Nick Ward. And then, I mean, you have some other great drivers that are, I mean, right in there. So I think, as we've been talking about leading up the past few weeks, you're going to have, you really have drivers right down to Richmond fighting to get in, or if we have more winners, that gap between those who haven't won and the cut line is going to get smaller and smaller. So it's going to be very interesting to see how that takes shape as we approach the last, I believe, 12 or so races before the chase starts.
Yes, and one thing that does kind of stare out at me is you end up with drivers in packs. If you look there, Jay Heisman currently with 346th place. He would be the 12th driver into the 16-race grid. But then you have a pretty solid drop-off from there on down to, let's say, the grid. So drivers from Heisman, Fife, and Thomas and Dunn are on up are starting to look like they might be in a good position moving forward. It's guys like Fonseca, Cody Smith, Nick Ward, Brad Wren that are really going to have to fight this out as we go down the finish here to see if they can make it into the chase into 2016. So 12 races left to battle for that, so it should be a good bit of racing as we go towards Richmond, which will be the last race of that procedure. So really quickly, we're going to go over the caution count as I work to get that up for everyone. Just to give everyone a quick update on this, as Jacob mentioned, we do have 2 drivers this week that are in the red, meaning they suffer their 1-week suspension. As we scroll down here, a driver change number. Michael Dole will change from 15 to 88, but if you'll notice, Dole has 3 cautions, but it's no longer red, meaning he has served his 1-race suspension. So A couple of drivers obtained their second caution. We want to make sure they're aware of that as we move forward. Going to Michigan, meaning if another caution gives them a one-race suspension. Michael Ellis in the 7 car gets his second caution there at Pocono. Brendan Kohler in the 57, his second caution was charged. And you see a couple of other drivers, Alan Roll, T.J. Thompson, Daniel Holloway, and a few others pick up their first caution. So we've had a couple of suspensions handed down on that. Jacob, as the league administrator, the caution counts. What stands out to you? Does it seem like it's achieving the end that it was brought to life for and working out okay?
Yeah, I think so to some degree. I think as we kind of talked about a little bit last week, it's intentionally a slow affecting type of system. So I think it's starting to take effect, and I think as you go into further weeks and the caution count picks up some more, those with the higher numbers, we're going to have to be a little bit aware as they hit those milestones and the suspensions get a little bit longer each time. So hopefully as we move from race to race, the drivers will be more aware, and then the racing will get cleaner because of it, hopefully. Not because they're necessarily suspended, but because they're more aware of where they're at within that caution count, and that affects their driving in turn, hopefully.
All right, and we haven't talked about the Elkton Golf and Batting Team Challenge in a while, so let's go ahead and throw that on the screen and take a good look at that. Some movement in the standings here. One Up was in second the last time we looked at. They've actually dropped down to fourth. And Integrity Racing has jumped both over 2 to Green and over 1 Up. But we have a very close battle between Integrity Racing and 2 to Green for that second position. Lockdown still with a solid 7-point lead over the field. But we happen to have here on the show tonight a driver from 2 to Green and a driver from Integrity Racing team. So 2 teams that are battling up for second. Joe, let's get your thoughts on that as a member of 2 to Green. Have you noticed any talk amongst the team about that, or has it changed the way you look at things, or how has it affected your driving style knowing the team is racing for that Elkton Golf and Batting Team Challenge?
I mean, it's definitely in the back of my head for sure, going into the races, that, having a good finish not only helps myself and the personal points, but it also does help the team challenge. So, I mean, the main goal for me every week is to get better, do better, because that not only helps out me, but it also helps out the team as well with this team challenge.
All right, and Jacob, you're somebody that's in Integrity, so you guys have jumped from fourth to second over the last few weeks since the last time we looked at it. Was that something that you guys have worked on? Any conversations about that? How closely have you guys been following that on the Integrity Racing team?
Yeah, I mean, since we are a team that's basically was created because of the team challenge, I think obviously not only it helps us because we talk more about what we're doing on the track and how to improve as a group, but we also definitely look at these standings and try to see how far we can get up, and we're really trying to work on our consistency, which is, everybody has a bad race. Like I had a bad race this past Monday night, and but in turn, James and William had a really good race with top 10 finishes Monday to kind of balance that out. So we're searching for that race where everybody can get up there and have a good run. Everybody in our team's capable of it for sure. So it's just that consistency and getting in the right positions, and I think we're doing a good job. I think our teams come together pretty well, and we're enjoying talking with one another and learning and kind of picking up on some things to make us better. And I think it's helping us as a team, but I think it's helping each of us individually as well.
All right, so as we move forward, the next race on our schedule is going to be Michigan. And what you see on your screen right now is the results from last year's Michigan race, where Tyler Herr is the defending champion. Looks like maybe stole one there at the end. Colton Landis leads 40 of the laps there at Michigan in the 2015 edition, but could not get the victory as Tyler Herr gets the victory. And our very own Jacob Fife was on the pole at last year at Michigan. So that's what we're looking back there at Michigan. Jacob, have you been able to get on the high banks of Michigan? NASCAR will be using a new rules package there. Us on the iRacing side will not. What have you noticed from Michigan if you've been able to turn any laps?
Yeah, I've got some laps in. I feel wise, I think the setup is fairly similar in feel to what Pocono was this past Monday night. I think further into the run gets a little tighter feel wise. So you'll have to watch your right front and kind of adjust for that as you get further into the run. But Michigan's always a fun place to race. I know we always enjoy going there. In the practice laps I ran, very fast, obviously. As you get to the end of the straightaway, going into one, you're going about 207, 208, and I believe my best time was a 39 flat, or somewhere in there. I'm sure a 38 is out there somewhere with a little bit more practice, but I think the first about 5 to 7 laps, you're knocking off some pretty quick laps, and then it really starts to fall off depending on how you manage your tires. So I think that's going to be a big thing with the right front, as I mentioned, and should be a lot of fun. Looking forward to it.
Yeah, one thing to remember under the new rules package with the new spoiler rules, that's going to increase your straightaway speed, but it's obviously going to make the car a little bit tougher to handle and need to slow it down a little bit more. So it's going to drive, unlike, Michigan's going to be one of the tracks that we're possibly really going to see some real differences in the way the car drives based off this new rules package. So I'm looking forward to it. Have you been able to get over to Michigan International Speedway and turn any laps, or is Michigan someplace that you're pretty comfortable at? What's your experience with Michigan?
I love Michigan. Michigan is an awesome racetrack, and it's just like Pocono because we got the old surface on it. They drive very closely related to each other, in my opinion. And I've actually got a couple wins at Michigan in the past, so I'm really looking forward to going to Michigan, especially coming off a good strong run at Pocono, coming to a track that drives rather similarly to Michigan in terms of track style, and the fact that Michigan actually expands out and you can have a couple of different lane choices there, especially in turns 3 and 4. So really looking forward to Michigan. That's going to be a very fun race and a very fast race too.
Absolutely. So we look forward to seeing everybody this coming Monday for the race there at Michigan. Hope to see everybody. So before we wrap the show, a little bit of an announcement. In 2 weeks after Michigan will be the off week for the Integrity Racing Series. So next week when we get here on Thursday night for episode 9, we're obviously going to recap the race that was at Michigan and maybe look forward to Sonoma a little bit. But in 2 weeks, we've got an off week. So what are we going to talk about? So Jacob is the executive producer of the show and the administrator of the league. We've kind of come up with a pretty cool idea of a question and answer format. Talk to us a little bit about that and what really we can expect in 2 weeks here on the Integrity Racing Show.
I'm just excited I get official title for the show now. What we're going to do for episode 10, which, as Todd said, is in a couple weeks, we're going to have a question and answer session with me. I'll be taking your questions, which is pretty much wide open as far as what you can ask. Obviously, the more league or iRacing centric questions would be preferred, but it's pretty much open to anything. I can be open book. So what you can do is basically submit your questions. You can either do it live while we do the show. There's a way you can go about doing that, and we'll explain that a little bit more maybe next week. Or you could submit your questions to Todd, as he'll be taking them, and he'll be posting his email address when we kind of lay out the details of it. And he'll post his email address, or you could Facebook message him on Facebook if you'd like to do that. But basically, we'll take the half hour or so. We might hit a quick couple things to start off with, and then we'll jump into questions. And I'll just, sit. If you have any questions about the league or how things are run, or maybe some of the behind-the-scenes stuff that goes on that you've always wondered about, feel free to ask. If you have questions about iRacing or me, you're more than welcome to ask as well. The only request that we make is that any questions that are profanity-laced or over the top as far as their content obviously won't be read. But otherwise, something different, something unique we're going to do, and I'm going to might be putting a little bit of a target on my back, but I think I can handle it. So feel free to submit your questions in the coming weeks, and we'll look forward to that show on the 16th, which will be episode 10, June 16th, and we'll spend some time doing that. So it should be a lot of fun.
All right, so that wraps up our 30 minutes here on the Integrity Racing Show, episode 8. Looking forward to seeing everyone Monday night at 8 o'clock when the sessions open up for the Michigan qualifying. So we want to see as many people there as possible this coming Monday. So thanks for joining us this week. We'll see you next Thursday night at 8 o'clock for episode 9 of the Integrity Racing Show. Have a good night, everybody.